Hi, Earthfolk, I trust you're having a marvellous day. Ristar is a game you can play right now from SEGA Forever, Sega's free game service. But is Ristar a shining shooting star in Sega's history? Or just a wannabe Sonic that fizzles out quicker than your hopes when you loaded up Sonic 06 for the first time? Oh, let's take a look. I'm Melton, your friendly monster gamer from planet Space, on my mission to discover everything great from Sega. Now, I'm a huge platformer fan. Some of my favourites have been Aladdin, Banjo-Kazooie, Cool Spot, and of course Sonic. They are like mini adventures full of collectibles and variety, and I always keep coming back to these style games. I have a huge confession. I'm new to Ristar. I know what you're thinking, how did it take me over 20 years to find this game? I don't know, but it's great to find a classic Sega game I've hardly ever seen before, and play it as if it was brand new. Ristar was created by the accomplished people at Sonic Team, and came out on the Mega Drive, or Genesis if you're in the US, in 1995, near the end of the console's run. Let's see what Sega says. Galactic Tyrant Kaiser Greedy, I think I've met him before on my travels, has enslaved the Valdi star system. Leaders of every planet have been brainwashed, and only you, Ristar, can free them. Use Ristar's extendable limbs to swing, climb, grapple and grab your way across 6 planets and end Greedy's grip on the galaxy. Sounds pretty good. So you can download Ristar for free from SEGA Forever on Android and iPhones, and it's available for a few of your Earth monies on Steam, and in the Mega Drive and Genesis Classics collections on PlayStation 4 and Xbox One. Here's the Android version where there's on-screen controls and typical Mega Drive layout. Anyway, touch controls are not the way to play. Connecting a compatible controller to your phone or tablet makes for a considerably more fun experience. With a decent controller, button presses work well whether you've got tiny human hands or big monster fingers like me. Touch controls are never quite as good for these type of games, which were designed way before touchscreens were a thing. The on-screen controls are removed when it detects you're using a controller, thankfully. But this Sega Forever port is not without issues. The audio isn't quite synced up. I find it absolutely annoying, and surely it's something that could have been fixed. I press jump and the jumping twinkling noise comes out after when I'm in mid-air. You'd think that this would have been addressed by now, as the game's been out on Sega Forever for, well, over a year. Strangely, this audio problem isn't plaguing all the emulated games on Sega Forever, but it's there on the 3 Android devices that I tried. The iPhone version surprisingly has no audio issues. So my aim is to find the best way to play Sega games, whether retro like Ristar or modern like Sonic Mania. I want to find the most accessible but also the best quality versions of a game to play and talk about, which is why I'm recording the rest of this footage using the Mega Drive and Genesis collection on Steam. Not only are there no audio sync issues, but the frame rate remains higher than the Android version. The new Mega Drive and Genesis Classics versions on Steam and consoles do seem to be the best way to play this classic, but problems aside, it's still a decent enough port on Sega Forever, and great to play when on the go, travelling on trains or through space and so on. So is Ristar just a wannabe hedgehog trying to give the blue blur a run for his money? Absolutely not. He's much more than that, but he has more to do with Sonic the Hedgehog other than being from the same developers than you might think. Ristar's origins start before Sonic took his first baby steps. While Sega and what would become Sonic Team were coming up with new ideas for a mascot to rival the amazingly successful Italian plumber from the Big N, one of their ideas was a bunny rabbit that can grab stuff with his extendable ears. This rabbit later turned into Sonic without the extendable ears, because that would be crazy. A hedgehog with extendable ears? What's next, a flying fox? Later in Sonic's life, Sonic Team went back to the big-eared rabbit and developed him into Ristar, a star with extendable arms. And undoubtedly, it's good that they did. This game's graphics are impressive, and as it came out near the tail end of the Mega Drive's run, Sonic Team was able to push the console to its limits. It almost feels like it was on the next generation of consoles. Sega's Saturn console was actually already out in Japan before Ristar landed firmly on the ground. However, with the Saturn and the recently released PlayStation 1, the push was for the newfangled 3D graphics. It's this reason why Ristar isn't as well known as he could have been had he come out a year or so before, when people hadn't already turned to the new consoles where it was all about the futuristic 3D. SEGA was also now focusing most of their efforts on the Saturn, so Ristar never got the chance to find the popularity he could have. He just faded away into the oblivion of SEGA franchises that could have been. He's popped up in a few cameo appearances in a number of SEGA games since, most notably in Sonic and SEGA All-Stars Racing Transformed as the checkered flag waver. What the Mega Drive lacked in 3D power, it mastered in 2D. Ristar really does push the Mega Drive's blast processing to its limits. The graphics are some of the best of the 16-bit generation I've seen, with large colourful sprites and detailed backgrounds. And the music and sound effects are top quality, reminding me a lot of the Sonic games, which is no surprise as they're both from the same team. Now, Ristar is not an easy game, and if you're using touch controls on your phone or tablet, you've upped the difficulty already. It's like selecting hard mode straight off. Even with the controller, it's still challenging, and it did take me a few game overs to get through to the final boss. And while okay, some of the difficulty in some of the later levels, and especially the bosses, is set to much harder than I like, I'm more into my arcade style games and relaxing platformers than burning through continues stuck on a boss. Sonic was never that hard. That said, playing through the game a second time, at least until it gets to the ridiculously hard bosses, is a lot of fun. And when I'd figured out the best ways to beat the bosses, it's not too hard I suppose, though some of you will find many platformers easy and Ristar could be the challenge you're looking for. At its heart, Ristar shares a lot with traditional platformers we've come to love. He runs, albeit much slower than Sonic, jumps and swims his way through levels, but he does it with a unique twist I've never seen elsewhere. Trying to jump an enemy to squash them is a no-go, he has to grab them and headbutt himself into them instead. He can grab items, platforms and bash into objects to knock them down. It takes some time to get used to the controls, as you have to press a combination of the jump and grab buttons to get Ristar to do what you want, not just one button that effectively does jump and attack at once, like Sonic. But once mastered, I found myself zipping around levels, swinging off trees and spinners, shooting high into the levels, yet not for long, as this game likes to mix it up with some tricky platforming. If you don't grab onto the handles at the right time or let go too soon, you'll be falling into a trap and losing one of the stars of your life bar. Enemies are varied and you need to figure out the best way to defeat them. I found many can't just be grabbed and headbutted, some have projectiles or charged at me. With a well-timed jump and grab, I found I could hold on to some enemies to help reach otherwise hard to get to areas. A few times in later levels using this trick is necessary to get past traps, so best practice early. The game is split into 6 planets, containing 2 levels with a boss encounter at the end of each level, and when you've made it through one planet and defeated the second boss on level 2, Ristar shoots off to the next planet on his journey to save the galaxy. It's such a great feeling beating one level and seeing what's next. There's always something new mechanics to learn or something interesting to keep the game flowing, and the bosses are pretty entertaining creations. This blue monster thing looks a bit like my auntie, who doesn't like the hot curry you chuck in the mouth, which is surprising. My auntie makes a good curry. And this boss with an orchestra of birds things that you have to hit in a millisecond of time it gives you, my timing just isn't as good as it was when I was younger. You get your Green Hill-esque planet flora, and other levels based on some typical platforming themes like underwater and ice levels. Others are more creative affairs such as Planet Sonata, a genuine strange level about music and birds. For fans of difficult levels, there's the infuriating first level of Planet Automaton. Beating this level almost reminded me of getting past Labyrinth Zone on Sonic 1, which was the first game I ever owned and beat, though I'm sure I was stuck in the labyrinth for about 3 years. Quite forgivingly, levels are usually pretty short in Ristar. Some are pretty straightforward platforming, though many have you flying about or using carefully timed acrobatics to reach the goal. A few contain objects to be carried through parts of the levels to activate barriers. In Planet Sonata, you have to take a metronome with you throughout the level and place it to interact with objects to get further through, occasionally giving your metronome to a weird bird. Strangely satisfying. The level design is top-notch, colourful, always interesting, with plenty to see and do, and secrets to find. By exploring levels you can find treasure chests to fill up your star gauge, so Ristar is ready for the next section or boss. And within the main levels you can find hidden bonus rounds where the aim is to collect treasures which show passwords at the end of the game, allowing new modes and secrets to be unlocked. Ristar stays interesting until the very end. I find it hard to fault this game. Having never played it until recently, I'm so glad I gave it a go. It's a hidden gem for sure. If you're after a boxed original, be prepared to pay out. Like many rare games, Ristar is a collector's item. Luckily though, for folks that don't want to spend all the money, and for space monsters who need to pay for the fuel for the return trip home, Ristar is available on consoles and PC for much cheaper, and also included is the handy save function, very welcome in challenging games. What more can I say? Amazing graphics and music, excellent if challenging gameplay, and an interesting story to boot. It's only a shame that Ristar was more or less forgotten about upon its release due to the upcoming console generation. If he'd been given a bit more attention, there's no doubt he would have had his sequels, and maybe Sega could have had the second true platforming icon. So, I'm thinking, after the almighty Sonic, who do you consider Sega's next best gaming icon? Leave an answer below in the comments, it would be great to hear your thoughts. So let's put a score on this game.
Get ready.
2, 3, amazing.
If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And if you'd like to join me on my adventures to discover all things Sega, please hit that subscribe button. Until next time, this is Melton, your friendly monster gamer, signing off.